Well, I think I'm live now. At any rate, it's telling me that my option is to stop streaming, so pretty sure that means I'm actually live. And it looks like I have Ray and Evan. Hello, hello. I am usually on Mondays I work and I kind of chill. I deal with dinner prep and I do this. Today, um yeah, plumbing, right, faucets. Today was the day we went shopping for a faucet because our faucet's leaking and it's getting down behind the sink, and I'm afraid that we're going to damage the floor under the sink, and I'd rather not. Besides which, I don't really like the faucet that we have. The problem that I ran into is Johan is working for a local to Texas anyway, um, lumber yard hardware store called Sutherland's. And they seem like they're a really nice place. They've got, I guess they've got the best wood selection around because we had been recommended to go there by the locals when we first got here. And so when Johan found up working there, it was great because they treat him nicely. He's happy there. He does a lot of lifting and toting and physical stuff, which is good for him. And he enjoys working with uh, the hardware end of it and getting to show customers stuff. And because he's actually done some home improvement stuff, he has a somewhat of an idea of what he's talking about, which makes him happy and makes customers happy too. So we had gone to Sutherland's to get gravel because the kid only has a couple more days off before he hits 4 months of straight just school and work, no days off. So he's trying to get some work done for me before that hits because he starts school again on the 17th. And one of the projects that he's doing is we were told to pull back the ground cover that's around the base of the house foundation so that it's no closer than 12 inches to the house, or we could risk getting termites into the house. So we're going to be digging out all of the ground cover, and I'm going to put that underneath the pecan tree and try and establish it there because there's a lot of bare dirt. It's too shady for the grass to want to grow there. And the ground cover is liriope and winter creeper, and both of those will do just fine with the shade, and we don't mind having ground cover there. It's less to mow. So we'll pull that back, and then we have weed cloth to put down, and then gravel. I bought pea gravel at Sutherland's today. We can get a scoop basically, which is like a front end loader bobcat thing, a scoop of topsoil, which we did yesterday, and today was gravel, and we picked up pea gravel. So we'll put the pea gravel and yeah, that I don't want to do concrete around it, Ray. I mean, that's probably a good idea in the long run, but for right now, I'm going to pull back the ground cover, put down the weed, a double layer of weed cloth, and then gravel on top of that. And I mean, we'll have to stay on top of it for maintenance because it'll get weeds in it eventually. But that should pull it back 12 inches from the house, is what we were told to do. So while we were doing that, I also went to look at faucets. There are a lot of options in faucets, and I didn't get the faucet that I wanted at Sutherland's because I wanted to look at all of the faucet options before I picked one. So concrete is vertical concrete. Yeah, we're the foundation under this house is pier and beam, I think. But we do have concrete around the edges, if that makes sense. So underneath the house is like piers because the ground around here shifts so much that a slab is asking for trouble. Um, so oh yeah, I don't want to do 4 feet of gravel. Goodness. I mean, I kind of get why you might want to do that, but no, for aesthetic purposes, I really don't want to do that. We have some existing shrubs, mostly Nandina, which is also called heavenly bamboo, and it has white flowers, somewhat inconspicuous, but then it has nice red berries at this time of the year, so it's very pretty. Yeah, the perimeter foundation is what you're talking about. We can some places we can see that, some places the ground cover is too much. And I'm actually not having him take it out all the way around the house, just alongside basically two sides of the house where the ground cover is really aggressively thick against the house. The other two sides of the house, there's either no ground cover at all, or the ground cover is in deep shade and it's thin enough it's not right up against it's not hiding the foundation. Yeah, 12-inch thick concrete walls would be nice, but not really an option for us. So the kid is going to do the gravel project, and we I got him a shovel. I bought him a present so he can do this work for me, because we have a round tip shovel, which is great for a lot of garden work. If you're digging a hole, it's fantastic because it's got that point so you can just drive it in. But what he needs for unloading the dirt and gravel out of the back of the truck is a flat shovel. So it's flat across the bottom side. Not a grain scoop. I'm not sure what the proper name of this is, but I bought him a flat shovel. I have a narrow garden spade, and I had bought the regular round tip spade, I guess. I don't know if I'm sure they all have names. I just know it's a shovel. And the other thing that I got for him, because he broke my axe today. Um, so I had a boy's axe. It's a smaller axe because I'm not a big woman, and when I'm using an axe, I find the boy's axe to be easier than the full size axe. Although I can handle that too. I mean, I've handled full double bit lumberjack axes in the past. Um, Thank you, Ray. That is exactly what I wanted. I got him a transfer shovel, and the one we already had is a spade. So the spade is great for digging, but the transfer shovel will help him get loads out of the back of the truck. And I figure there will be enough loads in the truck that we will want the shovel. It's worth buying. Um, but the gravel is going to be nice aesthetically. It'll also just be a little easier to maintain, I think, than trying to put. And I don't wood mulch. I think is a bad idea. I mean, that invites more of the same problem with. I don't want to give him. I don't want to give termites any ideas. The project that he was working on today for me was he had gotten a scoop of topsoil, which amuses me because topsoil around here in this part of Texas is red. It's very red. It's like a deep orangey red color. It's actually kind of pretty. But so he comes home with this truckload full of nice red dirt, and but we had in the front yard there are three holes, and we had actually called the water company to come in and take a look at these holes, because we knew that the water main was located behind the house in the alley. What we weren't sure was when we started to get holes in the front was whether there might have been something there for the water. Maybe the sewer was out front or something. So we actually had the water company come in, and they were very nice. They came out, even though they knew, the guy told me that he knew as soon as he heard the work order that it was definitely not connected with them, but they came and looked at it anyway. Um, Oh yeah, no, it's going to be very clay. It's got actually got a fairly decent amount of sand in it, but it's very clay. It doesn't have as much organic material as I would like, which I'll come back to. I'm sticking a pin in that one. Um, so the water company guys came out of curiosity, basically, and because we'd asked. And they came and they poked around in the holes, and what they told me that they thought happened was that there had been trees, and the trees at some point were taken down for whatever reason. They died, or the family that used to live here decided they didn't want them anymore. I don't know. But where the stumps had been, that had rotted away slowly, and that what they had left were these holes in the ground. And so there's a total of three of them, and one of them was very obvious, and one we kind of found by accident, and the other one Johann found just walking around on the yard while he was filling in the other two holes. But he filled all three of those holes up with topsoil, and then the rest of the topsoil he built my garden beds. So I bought non-woven fabric garden bags, basically. They're like gigantic tote bags, only they're round at the base. And um oh good heavens, Mom, I am not happy about you having a sinkhole in your backyard. uh that's scary. I know we were looking at a house. Was that with you? It might have been with you, where there was a sinkhole near the corner of the house and we decided not to buy it. I don't know if that was with you or if that was Sanford and I, but that was definitely a not buying that house because of the sinkhole. Um, so having a sinkhole in your backyard is frightening. And that was what I was concerned about here, was that it was a sinkhole when we first found it. But we've been told that there's not sinkholes in this area. It's not an area that's prone to it. For one thing, we're in an old river valley. But for another thing, we just don't have the underground structure isn't conducive to sinkholes. So we got those holes filled in, and the garden bag bed things that I have are about 24 inches deep. Deep, 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 deep. And the Mom is in central Kentucky, and there are caves everywhere. The Mammoth Caverns are in that area where Mom is. So at least that's far enough away from the house. It makes me somewhat less nervous. Um, the uh, the garden beds I'm filling with, we had a bunch of branches. So some of the branches came from Jana's backyard because Johann cleaned up a big branch that had fallen down out of a pecan tree there. And some of the branches came out of our backyard because pecan trees shed branches. Now, someone had pollarded the tree in our backyard, I'm assuming, to keep any of the big branches from falling onto the shed or the house. So I'm not worried about our pecan tree shedding something massive on the house. And Jonna's not worried about it because she rents. Um, so we had all this lawn debris, branches, and whatnot. And that was what the first layer in the garden beds was. It was because I'm doing a modified hugelkultur, and the wood will break down and get spongy and hold a lot of water, which is great in the Texas heat. And on top of that, so that the dirt didn't just fall right down into it, I had him put a nice thick layer of straw. He was telling me he put about a half a bale of straw in each one. And then thick layer of straw and the branches, and then the top, like 6 inches, I had him mix. We bought bales of compressed peat moss, so we did a mix of the peat moss and the topsoil for the raised garden beds. So I now have four very nice garden beds, which should be sufficient to grow what I want to grow here. Um, and they're in the backyard, which means they'll get some shade. They're far enough away from the pecan that they're not going to have pecan leaves falling into them too much, which is good because that pecan is a little bit allelopathic. And we don't want that in there. The broken down pecan in the beds shouldn't be an issue. Yes, zucchini will, if I can keep the squirrels from eating it while it's small, because that's what happened last year was they ate all my zucchini starts. Then I definitely want a couple of zucchinis. The thing with hugelkultur, because I've experimented with hugelkultur before, both in New Hampshire and then in Ohio, is when you have wood breaking down, it leaches nitrogen out of the soil because it uses nitrogen as part of um, the breaking down process. So the concern with hugelkultur used to be that it could potentially steal the nitrogen that the plants want. My discovery with that is that if you've got sufficient soil on top of it, it's not really a big deal. And the other thing that you just want to make sure you're doing is feeding um, with fertilizer. And I like to use bone meal, although I discovered the hard way because we have got dogs in our yard, both our dog and the neighbor's dog, that the dogs also like bone meal. So if I use bone meal, I really have to mix it into the soil because otherwise they'll like lick it off the surface. Dad and I used to just broadcast bone meal and it was no big deal, but can't do that when I have dogs who think it's a treat. Sanford has a nice little air pistol, actually. So that's the air pistol, which I bought him for Christmas one year so he could plink at the bunnies in my garden. Mwahaha. Um,
And I got one.
he did get one, but it has little pellets that it shoots. I'm not sure it would actually kill a bunny.
It'll
Um,
drop one.
he says it'll drop one. Did it actually kill it or did it just knock it over?
It crippled it. It hit it in the spine.
Ah, but yes, I am hesitant about eating wild rabbits because tularemia. So, but yes, otherwise, absolutely. Um, that sounds right. That doesn't sound like good eats. I mean, bone meal, yes. So you make it into fertilizer, absolutely. We can go with that. Uh, squirrel and rabbit, yeah, they'd probably make stew out of it. I mean, skinny, yes, but stew them and pull them off the bones, and eventually you get. Okay, that's good to know. I just have been hesitant about wild rabbits when we used to raise rabbits for meat. The thing with me is I'm actually severely allergic to rabbit dander. So I don't want to handle a rabbit. Um, yeah, meat that has things crawling in it, we do not eat. No. We would not eat the livers in caribou because you could see the cysts of the parasites in the liver. It was like the liver was stuffed full of pearls. It was the weirdest, grossest thing. So yeah, no organ meat from the caribou. I mean, we'd eat the hearts, but um so yeah, combating squirrels and rabbits. The raised garden beds will actually help with the rabbits. These beds are only a couple feet up, but the beds that I want to eventually get are like a powder coated steel and they're waist high. So they will definitely keep the rabbits out. They will not keep the squirrels out, but there's not much that will keep squirrels out. I can always build cages over the beds because it's not like I have a huge garden to protect. Um, we can still understand you, Ray. So, Ray, when are you going to have been at that job long enough that you can start job hunting here in Texas? Um, oh yeah, there's definitely people I can talk to find out if the meat would be safe or not. It's more of a, do I really want to bother with the rabbit things? Spiked cider sounds good. I haven't opened it and I might not, but I have a dark cherry hard cider here that I was gonna drink. It's got a fun little logo on it, doesn't it? Um, the uh, the idea was to have Sanford make dinner, but he's just gotten settled in over at his computer, so maybe he's not gonna do that. He went shopping today. As I get distracted from talking to you all about faucets, and that's where we started, I wanted for the kitchen faucet, I wanted to get one that was a little bit nicer than the one I have. The one I have is a pretty standard low angle faucet. And what I want is one of the big crook neck faucets so I have more vertical space to put pots under, or the 3 gallon watering thing that we have for the dog that has to be filled up. Although I've had an idea on that, Sanford. With the dog water,
Mm-hmm.
we could probably hook a hose up to the utility sink so you could fill that on the floor.
The utility sink is generally full of.
I know, I can fix that. Um, Wand. So when you say wand, what are you thinking? Because what I was looking at were either like the commercial one that have the spring loaded thing so you can pull it down, or the ones that come out of a rigid thing and you pull down the spray head on a hose. That is exactly what I'm looking for. Um, I think after having looked at Lowe's and at Sutherland's, I think the one that I'm going to go with is it's a Moen brand and it's called Edwin with a Y because it's pretentious. So, the Edwin I think is the one I'm going to go with. It's about $200, which is, I mean, it's not cheap, but it's not like the super expensive one either. Um, and I think that I like that it has buttons on the thing so you can pull the thing down and you can switch it from a stream to a spray. Um, the springy ones are fun when you're wasted. Oh. So I have the spray head that you pull out from the side of the sink and you can use, but I like the one that you can pull down from the faucet itself. And the way we have a dish rack that's actually up over the sink, because our sink is in the corner of the counter and the stove is literally this far from the sink on one side, which actually means that if I get the faucet with the pull down thing, I can fill a pot that's sitting on the stove without putting it in the sink. But the stove is really, really close to the sink, and that can't change. The way the kitchen is laid out, the stove is always going to be right there, sadly. Um, but and then the on the other side of the sink, the kitchen cabinets are so low you can't actually put a dish drainer underneath there. So the option is to have the dish rack that goes up over the sink, which means that having one of the really tall commercial type faucets doesn't work for me because it's going to be up into the baskets there. And the other thing that's a problem is that there's a bracer bar behind the faucet. So if your handle bumps into it, that's an issue. So the one I've picked out, the handle can actually be mounted in front of it, and that'll be easier for us to use with the dish drainer rack the way it is. So it's weird because there's so many options. Sutherland's didn't have that many options. I went over to Lowe's and there's like, I swear there was about 60 different options for faucets. And half of them were broken, the displays were. So I couldn't even like feel them because I don't want the little pull down heads on the cheap ones are plastic and I don't want that. I want a metal one. But when some of the displays were missing the pull down part, they'd been ripped out there at Lowe's. So I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's a $200 faucet. I would assume that it's metal, but it might not be. So I think I'm gonna go with the Moe and Ed one, and I'll get that at Sutherland's because that'll make the boy happy if I buy it from his store. And it's about the same price, actually. The price is at Sutherland's, even though it's a smaller um, store, it is comparable to. Oh, yes, I am so being picky, Nolan. It's actually nice because for once in my life, I don't have to just go with the absolute cheapest option. I get to be choosy and go, I am going to pick out a faucet that I will get to use for years. And the other thing about the Moen is it has a lifetime warranty. Um, so I am actually kind of excited about this because I get to have a faucet that I'm looking forward to having, and oh, it makes me happy. The other thing about the super cheap faucets that we discovered is that they don't come with the supply tubes, so the connector bits. So I'm like, I don't know. Which we might need and we might not because we're replacing an existing faucet, so it may already be there. I don't know. Um, well, you know where the one is in Dallas, Ray. So, um, so yeah, choosing a faucet's surprisingly complex. I was not expecting that. Oh, the one that freaked Sanford out. Um, no, no, Nolan, I have promised Sanford we are not moving anymore. Irving, Dallas, it's the Dallas Metroplex, Ray. It's all one big amorphous blob. Um, I have promised Sanford we are not moving again. We are staying in this house. We're not going anywhere. I love him and I'm not making him move again. This has been a lot. Um, but the faucet that freaked Sanford out is there is a faucet that has, when you use the pull down part, the wand, um, it has an automatic LED light. So if you're doing dishes in the dark, you're all set. But Sanford pointed out that having electricity in the same line as his water makes him very uncomfortable. You do need to live within driving distance of Itchy Paw so I can feed you on a regular basis. This is what I do. It's once you get out of the metro mess, so in other words, after you leave Denton, um, the drive from that area up here is not bad at all. I mean, I did that a lot when I was here by myself before Sanford got here. I was coming up here almost every weekend just because I needed adult conversation that wasn't my child. Um, and it just kind of that helped me keep going because that was a long stretch of being by myself. Uh, so yeah, I would say, I mean, and this is what I was looking at was if I had to live down in that area, I was definitely looking at Denton or Decatur. Um, Decatur is outside the sprawl, but still commutable. So yeah, Ray, I don't know how long you wanted to stay there. As much as it sounds like it would be awesome to work for the museum, it also sounds like that one's kind of a pain in your butt. Plus, I like having friends closer. Hey, it doesn't have to be right in the same town. There's not enough work in this area. I'm going to have trouble when my contract ends. That's making me a little nervous. It differs. I don't think legal is the right question about painting your front door. What you need to ask yourself is how is my husband going to feel about this? Right. There's some areas where it is very difficult to find places for sale. I know when I was looking down in that area, Euless is not a bad area. and had some things that were a little more reasonably priced. I think if you go more to the west side of Fort Worth, there is some more affordable places there too. And Nolan, I might be able to see you when I get out there for LibertyCon too. I don't know if you'll go to LibertyCon, but I know I saw you when I was in Knoxville. Not that I plan to go to Knoxville anytime soon, sorry. Um, Pretty Blue is nice. I mean, if you think your husband's going to be okay with it, far be it from me to argue if you're having fun painting. So, mom, with the house that we had in New Hampshire, the farm, mom took a sunflower petal into the paint store and had it matched, and had the sunflower petal yellow for our front door at the farmhouse, which was a lovely, cheerful color. Um, Nolan, I'm pretty sure that they live out far enough into the dry that there is no HOA. Right. So dry Texas is you want to go west of Fort Worth in that case. Azle. That's what it is. Azle. We looked at a couple of places out that direction. It's a little bit more of a stiff commute, depending on where you want to go. If you want to go to the Dallas side, it's probably more than you'd want to commute. But if you have something that's in Fort Worth, which frankly, I would rather drive in Fort Worth than Dallas any day of the week. And I don't think you can probably find nice places, but the stockyards area around the botanical gardens, there were some beautiful craftsman bungalows there, but they did need some work. So the there was a couple of craftsman bungalows in the Fort Worth urban area that were just gorgeous houses. Um, Yay, I get to see Ray. Um, but So that was actually what I was looking at because we couldn't afford much. So buying a fixer upper was kind of my option. So which is, I mean, not that the house that we bought wasn't a fixer upper, but these were a little more fixer upper than that. Um, cool. We'll have to have a Texas get together at LibertyCon. Represent. Um, it would be nice if you had a third book to hawk. I don't know which you've got going on right now. Are you talking to me about having submitted a story to me for the PTSD anthology? Because the answer is probably yes, but I hadn't gotten to yours yet. Did you send me one? I don't know. I haven't gotten to all of them yet. It's been slow, and I need to finish reading them. Um, these stories are never easy. The PTSD anthology is one of those things that I feel really passionately about. But then my tell is if the good story makes me like I need to step away and take a breath and come back into it after some time. So I'm being even slower than usual. And I have an assistant who is helping me with the admin stuff, but I want to be the one that does the initial read of the stories and sends out the acceptance letter, and then she'll follow along with people's contracts and then chase y'all to make sure that you're signed up for PubShare and have signed and returned contracts and that sort of thing. That alleviates a lot from me, but I also means I have to do my job and actually like buckle down and finish them out. So far in what I've read, everything has been fantastic. And I am not expecting to have to reject anything. But it might be because the reason that I had to reject stuff for the first PTSD anthology was that either it didn't match the theme of the last one was military centric, or that it didn't have any hope. And the hope part is the one that is really the strong thing. And I'm confident that you put that in, Ray, because your stuff is beautiful. Um, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you continue to do. I know I skimmed like the first page of yours, but I haven't gotten all the way through it yet. So, eh, dark is not the same as no hope. If at the end of the story there is a glimmer, the idea here for me is to model the next step towards healing. Um, and that it can be very, very dark. And it can even be horror. God knows some of the stuff that I've lived through was horror. If I wrote it down, there are things that I won't write down because it would be really, really difficult for people to read. And I don't think that's a bad thing when it comes to the PTSD anthologies. They can be dark, they can even be horror, but they can't end without some glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. I think all of us that have ever dealt with this know that um, it's a long, slow process to healing. And actually, a story that showed that it's difficult, it's hard, it's work. You're going to fall backwards at the same time as you keep dragging yourself by your fingertips forwards. That's realistic. And I don't mind seeing that at all in a story. I actually think that that's the other thing too, is if it just flips a switch and happily ever after, I might seriously reconsider taking that story because that's not as realistic as it's taken me a decade to get to a point where I can do this and just do the PTSD anthologies and read these stories. So I know how long and slow a process it's been for me. So and that's what I would rather see. I want it to be real. Um and I know that there are people that don't think that there's hope coming out of this, and that that's not real. Um there's there's got to be hope, because otherwise why? And then you lose the fight with your demons, and that's why we lose so many people to suicide, because suicide is the result of losing hope, and it's the result of convincing yourself that you are no longer of any value to this world, that there's no light, that it's all darkness. um and that's what the anthology is about, is that that's not true. So eh, if you've got something, Evan, send it to me. Let me decide. I'll be pushy there. Um, I am planning on publishing it right around Valentine's Day, so I've got a little time yet. I'm going to. I have on my calendar over here that my two tasks for tomorrow are to finish sending out the acceptance letters for the PTSD anthology. I think I'm a little ahead of myself on that. Um, and then I'm also migrating my website to a new host, which I'm actually paying the new hosting service to do the migration for me, because every time I've done that, um, it is a pain in the tushy, and I don't have the time and the patience, and I would rather throw $100 at it and have them deal with it. Go for it, Differs. Share a picture in the Discord when you're done. I want to see the picture. I want to see the color. It sounds pretty. Um, the the PTSD, the depression, the anxiety that goes along with it. It's one of those things that there's some things I don't think I'll ever get rid of in my life. And I know you guys see me on the live streams and I am always upbeat, and that's because I'm deliberately being upbeat because so there's a thing called body doubling. And I had come across it and I'd actually used it as a coping technique before I knew it had a name. Because we have mirror neurons in our brain. And what those neurons do is they fire when you're watching someone do something that you also know how to do. They studied this with dancers and they um they actually like did brain scans of people that were dancers, skilled, talented dancers, and they were watching other people dance. And they saw these neurons firing as if they were dancing, even though they weren't moving. They were sitting still and watching. And that's mirror neurons. So the body doubling is watching someone else do something that you know how to do. In this case, be happy. Um, and yeah, if you put on a smile, that actually does trigger different chemicals and into your brain. If you look at someone smiling, it has an effect on your brain. So my thing has always been to try and be cheerful and to model cheerfulness in these live streams, but I have days where I work because I've got to work and because the day job is sacrosanct. I'm the one that pays the bills around here and scares the living daylights out of me when I think about not having that income. But then I will go hide in my bedroom for the rest of the day, and Sanford will sometimes notice and bring me food, but I just can't do anything. Um, and that doesn't happen all that often, but it is one of the things that my brain does to me. And I don't expect that that'll ever go away. It's gotten better. Um, but I don't think that there's things that'll ever go away. There's certain things that, for lack of a better word, trigger my anxieties. Um, and that I will just get all wound up about. But what I am trying to do is to learn how to unknot those little anxious knots and to be happy and also to model happy for other people through this because why not? I mean, yesterday I met with Jonna and Courtney and we finalized some plans. So we're going to actually do something with the idea that Law Dog dubbed us the three moms of the apocalypse. And we're actually going to, the three of us are actually going to embrace that because it's fun. And we are going to um, do a podcast. And so we were talking about the podcast and the things we want to talk about, podcast and the things we want to do with it. And this live stream has kind of led me to that. And the live at the blanket fort that the guys do has led us towards that, in that we have realized that we can have a voice, that it's something that we can offer to the world. And one of the things that we have tried to do with the live at the blanket fort is that the rants are fine and wonderful and fun, but doom and gloom all the time is not fun and not wonderful. And I don't know, I mean, is it a feminine thing to want to insert some cheerfulness into it?
Oh, Cedar.
Yes.
Apropos of something you said earlier about putting on the fake.
Don't play that right now.
Okay. But
Okay.
there's.
Yes. He's showing me that there's the video of put on happy face Dick Van Dyke doing it. I don't want him to play it because I don't need to have possibly copyright music in the background of the video, but something to look up when you want a cheerful moment. Good night, Nolan. And Becky. Give my best to Mike. Um, Possibly. I mean, one of my ongoing issues, and a known one is that I have issues with my hormonal fluctuations that lead to more mood swings than even your normal given female. I actually have a formal diagnosis for that one. Yay, so much fun. But I think that there's a consciousness that happiness is contagious. And I think as a mother, as a wife, I am very conscious of my role in influencing my household. So, my job, part of my job is to make my house a happy house. And that's part of why it's important to me to keep my house clean and somewhat less cluttered, although not as uncluttered as my poor husband would like it to be, because I also do knickknacks. But it's part of the reason I garden, because gardening makes me happy. Playing with the dirt does something to my brain and gives me the happy chemicals, which is a good thing. Sunshine is a huge one, and I have dealt with SAD, and we talked about this I think in the last the live stream I did, that I have my little happy lamp over here. But today I spent time outside working on garden beds with my son, moving a wheelbarrow full of dirt around. Um, and that was good for me. It made me feel fantastic. So these are some of the things you have to figure out what works for you, and then sometimes you'll have to force yourself to do them. Sometimes you'll have to do them not because you want to, but because you know that they're what you need to do. Which is, I mean, self discipline and motivation are really difficult, especially if you're in the throes of depression. Which is where having someone external to you modeling that can help. So just being in the presence of a friend can help. Um, and I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be different for everyone. But the one thing that I don't like seeing is when people do the the Eeyore thing, where they're just gloomy, and when you try to cheer them up, they come up with reasons to shoot you down, and they're not like good sound reasons. They're just because somebody wants to be sad. And sometimes it's okay to be sad, but not oppressively so. And there is definitely a gut brain connection. So that's one of the really interesting things is studying the gut flora, and how it actually does affect the moods and brains. It differs, honey. If that helps with your anxiety, then you paint those doors and after a while you might have so many layers of paint on that you'll have to scrape it all off. But you know what? I'll bet that would actually work for you too, because you what you're doing is you're seeing a substantial change. You are affecting a visible change, and you're making something pretty. And I know for me, both of those things are good things to do. Um, I mean, right. So manic, I don't know that I do manic. I may. I'm not as sure on that. I know I have some pretty serious downswings. But um right, the door will still be painted tomorrow. It's not like dishes. Dishes are so damn discouraging because you do the dishes and then tomorrow there are more dishes. Even if you didn't do it, make a dish dirty. So, yeah. Right, and floors, same. Actually, the floors, that's part of the reason I bought the Roomba. Um, even when the first Roomba was an expensive indulgence, I got the Roomba because floors, man. Differs, honey. Somehow I think Kermit loves you and he understands and he knows these things. I don't think that this is going to be a big deal for him. I know that he's sometimes expressed frustration about the level of reorganization, and I know my husband would probably have the same reaction
Oh.
because they can't find anything, poor dears. But sometimes that's what you got to do. Move the furniture around to see how the living room looks when you arrange things this way instead of that way.
Check my shins, it's very bottom.
Sanford's over here grumbling. Sometimes these are the things you have to do to make yourself happy. The one I try not to do is retail therapy and go buy stuff because that can get bad real fast. I try to use excuses to do that. In this case, I bought myself washi tape, paper tape, because I'm painting and um, I want painter's tape. No more holiday eggnog. Did you finish it off, Ray, or did you make your stomach upset drinking that? Yeah, I'm still going back and forth about, oh, look, this one's got little lavenders on it. That's pretty. Um, I'm still going back and forth about whether or not I want chickens. I really kind of don't want chickens because that definitely means that nobody can travel here. Somebody has to be here all the time to take care of the chickens. But on the other hand, with eggs, $5 a dozen. Uh, I have not tested my stomach when it comes to booze. And you know what? I think I'm not gonna test my stomach when it comes to booze. As far as chickens go, I was thinking Banties would be nice. We could pull out where the hot tub is behind the house because it's in a fully enclosed thing. I don't know why. And guessing it might be because there were evidently grandchildren running around and they wanted to keep the kids from getting into the hot tub, probably. But other than that, I don't know why because it's got like chain link wrapped all the way around it. And I could pull the hot tub out and put chicks in there. So, right, but that's, yeah, I don't know. A, get Johann chickens? No, because right now we're still talking to the kid about going into the military, and we're already going to have to take care of his cats. Rhode Island red bantams would be pretty. Oh, your palate is all educated. So do you like the expensive stuff or the cheap stuff, Ray? Um, oh, Evan, don't worry about it. Nobody can spell his name. It he's named for his paternal great grandfather, um, who was Austrian. So the cat does not lay eggs. The cat bites. Actually, she's gotten better about it. But recently she's decided that she's a lap cat. Only in my case, she's only on my lap long enough to get onto my desk, and I don't want her on my desk because my desk has all kinds of stuff that she can knock off, and I would rather she didn't. Um, oh, those are little hens. So, yeah, Leghorns are probably the best option as far as layers go. They're skinny, but I mean, you're not going to get any meat off of them, but I don't want birds for meat anyway. Oh, good God, no. um, his dogs would have something to say about that. Um, yeah, exactly. Little chickens are easier for the yotes to carry off. That's why I'm thinking if I do get chickens, they're going to be in a completely enclosed chain link thing. So, but I'm probably not going to get chickens. I am trying to keep myself to what I can manage and a small garden and we have the dog, we have the cat. That's enough for the time being. Oh, silkies are so fun. They're such cool looking little birds. They're little floofs for those of you that haven't seen a silky chicken. Um so yeah, the North Texas Troublemakers is doing some planning for the year, trying to figure out what we are doing, what we're not doing. And we cleaned up with the blanket fort yesterday, did an inventory of stuff and stock. And that was good. And we talked about podcasts and stuff. So we got a couple of things in the works that will start to happen after some folks are back from MarsCon this coming weekend. Uh, yeah, no, ducks. Ducks are not an option. I have no moisture here for ducks, and I have raised ducks, and no, no ducks. I do not want ducks. I've raised a lot of chickens, and I have processed chickens, and my parents liked to do heritage breeds, so we've had a bunch of different kinds of chickens. At one point, my dad and I were working on getting enough different kinds of breeds of chickens to do a rainbow of eggs because that's fun. Yeah, ducks are waterfowl for sure. They are messy, messy birds. Uh, yeah, mutt chickens are hardier. I think that some of the chickens that we've had in the past were better than other chickens for sure. The only ones that I had trouble raising to adulthood were actually the guinea hens. And guinea fowl are finicky, delicate little things and then annoying as heck when they get big. So I don't remember now why dad wanted guineas, but you got ducks because you were left unsupervised, it differs. Yeah, I can't keep rabbits for meat because allergies. And I have absolutely no desire to raise domestic turkeys because they are the dumbest daggone birds.
No
No
turkeys.
turkey. Well, we don't have room for turkeys. I mean, we have a 1.5 lots of land here, which they're tiny in town lots, so that's actually still not that much. But we also have on top of that lot a what is the big shed? Like 20 foot by 40 foot?
Yes.
So 20 foot, 40 foot shed workshop thing, plus the 2 car garage that has an additional workshop on it. And the big covered outdoor space. So we really don't have much outdoor
There's no
dirt.
yard in our yard.
There's no yard in our yard, yes, which was deliberate. Because either we were going to get someplace outside of town with a few acres, or I wanted someplace small that wasn't going to take much maintenance. And we went on the not so much maintenance side of that equation. Ticks, that's probably why dad wanted the guineas. We didn't have to worry about snakes in New Hampshire, but the ticks were awful. Oh my gosh, so bad. Um, when Pippa was like 6 years old, she came into the house with a dozen ticks on her. None of them biting yet, but just they were so bad. Where the chickens were allowed to free range in the upper part of the farmyard, we didn't have a problem with ticks. But the kids like to go way back into the pasture where the chickens didn't go, and they would come back into the house with ticks. So, um, yeah, 25 acres can be a lot of maintenance. I think it probably depends on what you're doing with that 25 acres. For me, if we had 25 acres, I would allow most of it to be pasturage. We would have to mow it periodically to keep the mesquite from coming up into it. And even that, I might let some of it go to mesquite and shrub so that I had refuge for deer because tasty, tasty deer. Um, but I don't want to mow for a lawn anything that's really that good sized. We would have to have a big riding lawn mower and just no. We had a half an acre in Ohio, and it was really more than was comfortable to maintain. And once all the kids moved out and was just going to be Sanford and I taking care of it, it was going to be an issue. We had a riding mower, but there's all the little maintenance around the edges, the weed whacking and the places where the big riding mower won't go and you have to go with the push mower, and it adds up. And I'm looking forward into the future and going low maintenance, a low maintenance house, a low maintenance yard. As I get to know Texas better, I'll go more permaculture with the gardens because I'd like to have my herbs and my zone 1 stuff this year, so that I can just step out of the house and harvest what I want. Um, but we just don't have the big of a yard, so as long as I keep things low maintenance. Now, we have been talking about sowing part of the front yard into bluebonnets, which don't need to be mowed until about June, I think. When their vegetation turns brown, then you could mow, and that's what we would have. We would have then the whole spring where the bluebonnets were growing and hopefully blooming, and then the later in the year we'd mow a few times, but then it gets dry enough up here that you stop having to mow until like September. So that sounds appealing too, as put wildflowers in. And there's a neighbor just up the road from us that has done that, so I know that the city won't have a problem with it because bluebonnets in Texas. And yes, it does. It looks so pretty. So that might be what I'll do in the long run, because right now what we've got in the yard is mostly weeds. There's not a lot of grass going out there. And it was that way when we got here. So I either have to have a lawn company come in, spray for the weeds, sow grass, do all that maintenance. That sounds like a lot of work. I don't think so.
And expensive.
Yes, and expensive. Um, and it is 7 o'clock, and I have babbled for an hour at y'all. And I appreciate you sticking with me. Those of you that did, thank you. Always enjoyable to bounce off the chat and to blather about what I've been thinking about. Picking out faucets is not as easy as it looked when I started on this. But I will talk to you all later. Those of you that watch live from the blanket fort, you can catch that tomorrow at noon, and I will join them Thursday at 3. And for those of you that don't, I will see you next week. Love you, Juniper. Good night, everybody.